You Let's get ready to RPG!
RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG!
What's happening, everybody? My name is Derek Melinda, and I am here from the Knights of Last Call saying hello, hi. How are you doing? Welcome. Welcome, everyone, to another Gamemaster QA. We haven't had one of these for a while. I think because we were hanging out, we were relaxing. We had Mark and Steven on. We were talking about Legend of the Five Rings. We were telling stories. Here we are at long last, returning, and welcome. And we got some pretty awesome people in chat already, and happy to see some of our, of course, some of our Patreon patrons in the chat here. And people asking questions about the Patreon. Yeah, check it out. Patreon.com/Knights-of-Last-Call. In addition to getting access to our Discord, where the heart of our channel really is. And by that, I mean the community of incredible, amazing, awesome folks. 224 strong at this point. All very passionate, very kind, very considerate people who all love talking about role-playing games and playing role-playing games. We are playing Pathfinder 2. We are playing The Warren. We are playing Blades in the Dark. We are playing Powered by the Apocalypse. Our own Ben Asaro in the chat just made his own Powered by the Apocalypse hack of the Space Marine game Death Watch and ran it for some of his friends and some of the community members. People are experimenting, they're talking, they're sharing, and I love every minute of it. I spend far too much time. Rui asking, how is the time zone activity in the Patreon European-wise? I could tell you, when you join our Patreon, you have an option to flag what your region is: North America, South America, Europe, New Zealand, ANZAC, that kind of thing. I believe about 10% of the Patreon is European, at least those that have chosen the European flag role. Let me take a look real quick. Yeah, we have 23 people who have chosen the EU or the European role. I shouldn't say EU. And so, yeah, so about 10% of our group is European. And we have a lot of people who run European time zone games because we actually encourage our game masters through a reward incentive program to run games in the Europe time zone, just to make it a little bit easier for people to get those time zone games in. So we are, somewhat, we make an effort. Let's just put it that way. But because obviously most things are North American based, and don't get me wrong, I'm well aware of the fact that it's very late in Europe right now, and one of the things I'd love to do is to just do at least a couple streams a month at earlier in the day. In fact, someone pointed out Sunday, I just randomly had some time, and it was Labor Day weekend here at the States, so I went and did a special bonus stream on Sunday to sort of do a system, or at least turned out being part one of a system deep dive. Even in a 3-hour, 10-minute stream, I couldn't get through an entire system. I could only get through like how the mechanics worked, because it's in my nature to just go deep and talk about why I think a mechanic is so cool, and what this does and how this shapes your gameplay, and how the cycle of incentives and rewards promote or discourage a certain form of gameplay. So anyways, but someone said, hey, you should do those at like noon on Sunday, Eastern Standard Time, or maybe like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. So that way, folks in the North American time zones can get to it. It's earlier for the West Coast. It's middle afternoon for the East Coast folks. But over in Europe, it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So it's a little bit more attainable. And I thought that was a great idea. So definitely look forward to doing that more often. So today's stream is all about you. As it says in the description and the doobly-doo below, feel free to ask your questions. I will try to answer them. If you feel like supporting and donating, you're free to do so through Superchats or Stream Elements tips. Yeah, I mean, I think we could have a fun time of it. Rui, I completely agree with what Ben is saying here. We have very low dollar tiers, and it doesn't get you all the benefits. Obviously, we extend more benefits to our higher tier people, but you can come in at $3 or $5 US a month and see if you like it. You can always upgrade. I mean, I'd love to have more of your cash, but I feel like I need to earn it, and it is absolutely, no offense taken. If you want to come in at a lower tier, check it out, see if you like it, and you can always upgrade. So that is totally fine as well. So great idea. Thank you for good advice, Ben. Entheo, what's going on? Joe asks, can we have another gaming story, please? Joe, sure. I just, let me think of one if something comes up, and I will happily give one. Jason B.
Jason B tipped $10. Just signed up for the Northern Reaches. Woo. I had no idea people played this game. What is up with these flick maces, though they seem kinda broken?
Well, Jason B, Northern Reaches is our Pathfinder 2 mega community game, and it's where we're running at this point. I think it's close to $5 to $10 or $5 to $10. We're running 5 to 10 games a week, and then sometimes another 5 games on the weekends in our Northern Reaches game. Look, I just did a video about Legend of the Five Rings. I've done videos about Powered by the Apocalypse. I've done videos. I want to do a video about Blaze in the Dark and why I think that's an incredible system. But Pathfinder 2 is sort of our complex mechanical D20 game of choice. And we like showing people how they can play D20 with incorporating these ideas of old school concepts and new school concepts. Old school concepts like play to find out and explore and player agency driven, but also new school concepts like clocks and emergent gameplay and storyline immersion and using mechanics in order to drive narrative choices. So we like taking those elements, and when I say we, I mean myself, Aaron Smith, Bob Bumgarger, who are sort of run the overlords of this Northern Reaches game, and we ingest sort of our flavor and our direction. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the game masters who I tip my hat to, who are running these games. They get a Benny point, they get a hero point from our server, which can, in some cases, some people have won prizes, from us for collecting hero points. But for the most part, these people are doing it out of the goodness of their hearts because they like to play. It's also a fantastic way to learn how to GM and to be exposed to a bunch of different players and player styles. And if you've had problems getting online community games, either because you can't find a group of people that you actually want to play with, reasonable, decent folk, or because there's not people playing the games that you want to play, I highly suggest you come check out our Discord. You come in at the $5 or $10 level, you get into Northern Reaches, you join some of our community games. You're not going to find a lot of people playing 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons on our game server. It's not because we don't like 5th edition D&D, but look, there's a million places to play that. But if you're interested in trying out some of these games, if you're interested in playing more Pathfinder 2 with smart, intelligent, kind, funny people, then that is the place that you want to check out. I'm just looking here in our community games section coming up, and what we've had. We have someone's running Alien, the role-playing game next month, where someone's playing Wraith the Oblivion in October. We just had someone play the Warren, which is a Powered by the Apocalypse game where you play rabbits. Like I mentioned before, we just had a Warhammer 40K Powered by the Apocalypse game last week. So there's a lot of different games in here besides Pathfinder 2. So it's a really great way to indulge the games that you do like, but it's also a great way to explore new games, or maybe those are the games that you do like. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. But thank you, Jason B. Steven, the hype boss, is almost dead. Rui asked, great video about Legend of the Five Rings. Any chance we have a small live playthrough of it? I'm sure Smith, if he was here, would say he loves it, would love to do that. You know, the problem, Rui, is that making those kind of videos is really, really tough. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. And, you know, we love to do them if the request is there, especially from our patrons. Because really, honestly, at this point, we're really making videos for them. They're the community that supports us. They're the community that keeps us going. YouTube, not really doing it. So, you know, it really just comes down to prioritization. You know, these channels and these live streams and all this other stuff takes a lot of time. And I would love to do it. It's, you know, it is a fantastic game. It's a fantastic experience. But, you know, I can't say enough good things about
Bush
it.
tipped $25.
All right, CMB, he's back. And he slays Steven and takes over as our hype boss. Welcome, CMB. Always good to see you here. Thank you for that tip, sir. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your donation. Oh, there he is. There's William Brandis. There's Smith saying, let's go about Legend of Five Rings. Steven, who was our hype boss, played in Warren, and it was run by Bill M., who was in the channel earlier, but is off probably to play a game by now. So really enjoying just the incredible, amazing. Every day I get messages from people. People are showing me their bookshelves. Somebody just bought the Legend of the Five Rings series book because of the show we did Sunday, and I see people's shelves, and because of people like me, and because of people like William Brandis, and because of people like Ben Asaro, people are going out and they are buying games. They are picking up these crazy cool independent games that they would have probably never picked up before. They would have just been playing Pathfinder 2 and D&D for the rest of their life. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but, you know, I think there's more to life, you know, to sample the buffet a little bit. I agree. Mostly Ben. Speaking of unique games, how did the Oath game go? Well, we've played two board. We've been playing some Oath, which is a board game. Here it is. Oath. It's a board game made by Leader Games. It's sort of a asymmetrical area control game. So we've actually played two versions of the game. We played on TTS, and we've played it with some of the patrons. It was really fun. The first game, I was the Chancellor of the Empire, and I tried to maintain control through force, and then a group of exiles came out with a new vision of a world of peace and magic and prosperity, and their vision grew strong enough and powerful enough that they won, that they were able to take the game over. So then the next time that we play, the game kind of changes, and whoever won last time is sort of the person in charge in the second game. So in the second game, our Patreon member Darth Gorlock was the chancellor of his empire, and his goal was to maintain peace and prosperity. But in this game, he also had a member of his empire, which was another player, who was trying to succeed him as being the new ruler of the empire. So there's like two imperial players who are ostensibly on the same side, but they had this like internal political conflict, which just like dominated the whole first 2/3 of the game. Then Donnie, another member of our Patreon, a moderator and a hero, had been kind of quietly doing nothing the whole game, and then just amasses this massive army. He marches on the Imperials, and he just lays waste to all of their relics and their banners, which is what you need to win the game. He steals them all. He usurps the throne, and he's about to win the game. And finally, my character, I take a gamble, and finally, my character makes a mad push as an exile to reinstate control. Donnie had destroyed his army in order to achieve this victory. And so I spread out across the map like a locust, taking over every area, territory, control I could get. And I happened to draw a card called the Vision of Conquest, which meant that my character was given a vision of a new world order. if I could only control the most territories by the end of the game. And I did. And because of Donnie's last minute push, the Imperial players did not win, but it kind of set up and it really, to be honest with you, Donnie should have won, but they made this last ditch Hail Mary attempt on Donnie to try to take him down a peg, and Donnie should have crushed them. The dice came up really, really, really crappy on the defense rolls, and I'll be honest with you, Donnie was robbed, and I picked up the ashes, that which remains, and so I did win the game. But again, like I said, I will freely admit, it was Donnie's game to lose, and you replay that final battle where the Imperial players tried to take Donnie out 100 times, and he wins 99 of them, and he lost this one, so I was able to win. So we've been a lot of fun. It's a really cool game. I think it feels RPG-ish to me in the way that you kind of create stories out of it. You're playing a game, but it creates stories, and that's what I like about it. And to be honest with you, that's kind of what I want out of my RPG games as well. I want to play a compelling game that sort of inadvertently, or maybe not inadvertently, but deliberately, but it automatically just creates stories, which is what I want. I don't want to have to like work super hard at it. And I definitely don't want it to be like my primary goal. I don't want to go into an RPG thinking like, I want to make a cool story and I'm going to do this and I have this plot element and I'm going to have this plot element and this rising action. Like, that's writing. That's not playing a game. I just want to play a game and be looking around in amazement as this really cool, awesome story is just emerging spontaneously from the ether all around us. And I love that. When that is happening, that's my favorite moment in a role-playing game, is when that transcendent moment is occurring and you're somehow, it's like a very yin-yang kind of thing. You are both the audience and the creator at the same time. It's all happening. It's like a chemical equilibrium where things are coming in and out of solution at the same time. It's very, very amazing. I love it. Joe, I'm trying to think. We'll get if one comes to me, Joe. I mean, I've got plenty of stories. I'm just trying to think of when you put me on the spot like that. It's always kind of crazy. I mean, I have a couple of really good stories, but I don't know if I want to take up that much time. Dan, I appreciate that you would even suggest such a thing. We'll get back to you on that, buddy. We'll see what we can do. What about a story of the way back? How did you start playing, and do you remember any wow, this is cool moments of your first campaign game? Sure. So for me, the two most important people in my life were my dad had, they've all passed, 3 brothers, 2 older, 1 younger. And his oldest brother had a son who was my oldest cousin, and he was about 10 years older than me. And this was my cousin Mark. And my dad's youngest brother was about 20 years older than me, so about 10 years older than Mark. So if you can imagine, my uncle was 30, and this was my dad's cooler young uncle, never married. He had some health problems, but he liked video games and role-playing games and card games, all that stuff. Bill, thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Incredible, amazing, awesome. Very much appreciate the strong, of course. Wonderful, love it, awesome. Love it. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. 1 month streak. Congratulations. So also, you'll notice that does a fair amount of damage to Combat Medic Bush. Ooh, taking him down. So anyways, so the cool uncle, and then he was kind of close with my cousin, and my cousin grew up, he was probably 10 or 12 or something like that when the, box set came out for basic D&D in the early 80s. And so when I was about 10 years old, and my cousin was 20 and my uncle was 30, it was like 92. I was playing Hero Quest board games. I'd read The Hobbit. I was just really, really into fantasy. And I loved like Hero Quest board game, Dark Quest, and I eventually got the D&D basic box set, which was the black box set. I think that's the 5th edition of basic. And they heard it through basically, they must have heard it from my dad or something through the grapevine. But basically one day out of nowhere, they show up, and they basically say like, "It is time." And I go, "Okay, what's going on?" And my cousin lived about half an hour to 45 minutes east of where I lived, kind of out in the boonies. And they basically took me to their D&D game. It was Saturday nights. There was like, I don't even remember. I want to say there was like 14 people in their campaign. It was adults. It was their kids. I mean, I was 10. I was probably the youngest. But there were like guys that were, you know, in their late 30s, and they were there with their teenage kids. And then there were some guys that were in their, you know, 20s and 30s that were, you know, didn't have kids, but there was a lot of people there. And they brought me in and they said, "Okay, you're gonna join, you're gonna play, it's gonna be awesome." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is incredible." So I remember sitting down and they had me roll up a character. And now I had made characters for basic D&D because I had my black box set, which I'd played with my sister and my close friends. But as far as I'm concerned, this was AD&D. This was 1st edition AD&D. And I remember the way that they rolled ability scores. I'll never forget it. I think this might have been in the GMG or the DMG. So I don't know if they made this up, but it was 3d6. So it wasn't 4d6 drop low. It was 3d6. But you basically made a series of rows and columns. And it was strength, dex, int, wisdom, con, charisma going down. And then it was going across strength, dex, int, wisdom, con, charisma. And you roll, so it's 36, a 6x6 grid. And I rolled 3d6 36 times to fill in the grid. And then you could choose any array, either up, down, left to right, or there was like the 2 diagonals. So you essentially had 14 different ability score arrays to choose from. And I rolled pretty well on the one, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, he's awesome. He should be a monk. He should be monk." I didn't even really know what a monk was, but I ended up making a monk. That was my first AD&D character of all time. And I want to say that my cousin was the game master, the dungeon master. And at the time, I think he was running video games. Like he had bought video games and bought like the strategy guides for them and was running them as pen and paper, pencil and paper D&D games. So I think he had run like Eye of the Beholder and Eye of the Beholder 2 and Eye of the Beholder 3 as a D&D game. And I remember they were playing Eye of the Beholder 2, I think. And I knew the map because I had played that game. And so I felt like I had this insider information. And it was awesome. And I did that for about 2 years. I didn't go out there every Saturday, but I mean, I went out there a fair number of times, and I played AD&D with my uncle, with my cousin, and I really loved it. And then not that long after I started doing that, I met some friends at the bus stop, one of whom is William Brandis, Aaron Smith from the Patreon. I heard them talking about D&D on the bus. We started up a conversation, and we've been playing D&D, ever since. That was kind of when we got into our 2nd edition era. And eventually my, people and my cousin ended up going to seminary school and joining a priesthood and all the other stuff. So, I didn't end up, and also they got really into Magic the Gathering, that whole group. And like everyone would show up for D&D, and instead of like, playing D&D, they were all just talking about Magic the Gathering. And I was like, no, I don't want to talk about Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is the game I already play that game with my friends. I come here to play AD&D with the pros, but they just wanted to play Magic the Gathering. So in a sense, Magic the Gathering kind of ruined that. But people moved away and people did stuff, and so eventually that came to a close, and then it was just on for me. Do I have my first favorite moment? I don't exactly remember how or why or where this even happened, but I must have been low level unless I gained so much experience. I had gained a couple levels, but I remember my monk stunning. It had to have been some sort of humanoid. It might have been like an evil cleric. I remember Eye of the Beholder 2, Temple of Darkmoon, had a lot of evil clerics, and I stunning fist an evil cleric, and it like disrupted his spell. And I just remember everybody cheering and high-fiving me and, you know, being like, good job. Like I did something. And I was sitting there, you know, high-fiving everybody. I was like 11 or 10 or something. And that I remember, that may not have been my absolute first moment, but I remember just thinking now through this stories how it was that was a pretty awesome way to start the hobby. So very, very cool. All right. Ian just ordered Legend of the Five Rings. It's my fault. Sorry. It's a really great game. More people should be playing it. I mean, I get that intense samurai drama isn't for everybody. You know, one of the things I do actually respect more and more is recently we've been playing 5th edition D&D. I use that with an asterisk. On our Friday night games, we've just been using the chassis of 5th edition D&D. You know, strength, dex, int, whiz, charisma, flat proficiency bonus, that kind of thing. But it's kind of our hack on it. But it's a very lighthearted game. We're playing through B2, Keep on the Borderlands. You know, it's very much explore the dungeon, kill the monster, find the treasure, get the magic item, you know, come up with some crazy plan, roll a bunch of dice. You don't know what's going to happen. Morale checks, random. Reaction checks, random. Random encounter checks, random. Right? It's all just kind of a bunch of shenanigans all rolled up into one. But we're having fun with it, you know? Bob's brother's playing, and I think his name is like, he's a ranger. He's a halfling ranger. And I think his name is like, I called him like Dick McShoot or something. I don't know what exactly his name is, but it's something like that. It's like very silly. And in like any other game, I would have been livid. I hate stuff like that. I don't even like it when people come up with like names that are just bad, right? Like just some awkward name where I just look at it and I go, that's not even a good name. What are you doing? Stop. I'm already irritated with this. But I'm just totally laid back. This game is about the beer and the pretzels and killing the monsters, exploring the dungeon, getting the treasure, getting the magic items, gaining levels, being cool, doing fun stuff. Maybe you die, maybe you don't. Who knows? I don't look at any of the rules. I don't calculate balance. I just roll dice and see what happens. Okay, the other day they got ambushed. To be fair, it's like one of those great ambushes because it happened and nobody was like, oh my God, what? They were like, oh yeah, we probably should have totally expected this, because they knew that the goblin caves, that they had killed all the goblins, and then they kind of deceived and tricked the ogre into killing the rest of the goblins. And then while the ogre was weak, they killed the ogre. They knew that the goblin caves had been taken over by the hobgoblin tribe. So the group came into the goblin caves and was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, we've killed all the goblins. This will be really simple. It's like, well, no, they knew that the hobgoblins had taken over the goblin caves. And so they were moving down a narrow, tight corridor between two sort of larger areas. And they got ambushed from both sides, pincer move by a random, I basically rolled it as 2 random encounters of hobgoblins. And I rolled right there in front of everybody. I was like, okay, there's 2d6 hobgoblins in front, 2d6 hobgoblins back. Rolled them out in front of the screen. And I think it ended up being like 3 and 5. So they were like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah, like that really very easily could have been 7 and 7. Is that balanced? Probably absolutely not even close. I think if I had rolled just 7 and 7, almost every single one of them would have died. I mean, I think their best option at that point would have been try to kill the ones, maybe somebody tries to, rear guard and hold off the people in front, and then they try to kill the ones who came in from behind them, try to cut a path, and then, race for the exit and try to race for safety and lose them in the woods and the hills nearby, assuming that they, pursue. Anyways, but I rolled low and they were able to win and fight their way out of the ambush, and, it was good. But anyways, I'm just having fun with it. And I don't care that someone's name is Dick McShoot and he's a ranger. There's like 3 dwarves and a halfling. Even that alone might normally piss me off. I'm like, this is a human-centric game. So Legend of the Five Rings is very much the opposite of that. And I appreciate that not everybody wants that to be part of their game experience. And that's totally fine. I think that it's reasonable and understandable that some people just want to, kick back and have fun. But if you're into dramatic storytelling and you're into exploring ideas and concepts, again, there's a lot of games that I really like Legend of the Five Rings, Monster Hearts, where I think there's there's a degree of gravitas that goes with those games. And I think you are doing the game a disservice, you are doing the authors a disservice, and you're doing the genre as a disservice if you don't treat it, with the respect that it deserves. But if you do want to do that, and you do want to play that way, then I think that those games can be amazing. So, all right. George says, love your channel, Derek. Question: do you ever practice some combats or new game mechanics solo before you GM a game? No, George, I do not. The best time for me to figure things out is with my players, because that's number one, they're very smart people. I trust / expect them to have done their due diligence and for them to have read the rules and know the rules and have a good gist of what's going on. And then if something comes up that's awkward or weird, I'd rather work through that together with my party and with my players than I would by myself. And also too, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll read the book, and I'll think through the inevitabilities of some of the things, and I'll read the rules. But no, I don't practice anything with a new game or anything like that. I actually when I read new mechanics, I get so excited because I go, oh man, I can't wait to see how this plays out at an actual table, and how these mechanics are going to create, what kind of experience are these mechanics going to create, and is it going to be, is it going to work as well as I think it is, or are there going to be rough spots or tough spots? And then I take feedback from that, and I go to my players or to the game, and I say, hey, what did we think about this? That felt like that didn't work right, and maybe we double check and make sure that we played the rules right, or we're not missing something. And then if something is really problematic, then that's where I start fixing things and I start changing things. If I have, I have several flaws, but if probably one of my larger flaws is, not undeservedly, I've run a lot of games. I've read a lot of game systems. Sometimes I will read a game system and I will already start being like, I don't think that mechanic's going to work. I should change it before I even play the game once. I've tried to get better at that and tried to be like, okay, just play it the way that it says before you start changing a million things. But it is tough for me. I like to tinker, and to be fair, I do think I have enough experience sometimes to look at something and say, I don't think this is going to work. So, no, I do not practice beforehand. Let's see here. Hey, Weasel Lord, welcome. I didn't see that you are around for a stream, so welcome. Let's see here. Everybody loved Hero Quest. Yes. They just re-released it, and on Kickstarter. Ugh. It's like, come on. You have $1 bajillion, Hasbro or Milton Bradley or whoever actually owned it. Probably Hasbro because they own everything. It's like, you don't need to do a Kickstarter. If you poured a 7 and 7, Smith would have been more interested. Man, I love 7 and 7. It's such a good drink. Like when I'm in Vegas, that is like, if I'm playing at a table, that is like my go-to drink. Joe, question. Most of the Pathfinder 2nd edition monsters have several unique abilities. Do you at least read those rules? Not gonna lie, I hate when the GM decides mid-combat to read the monster stats. Yeah, I would say, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Pathfinder 2 monsters are too complicated for me most of the time. Pathfinder 2 monsters are great if you 100% know that the party is going to fight this weird monster with this list of 5 strange abilities. And you can, bring it up beforehand on Foundry or in your, in your adventure module, and you can read it and you can look things up. But there are 2 main problems with that. Number 1, even when I'm playing an adventure path, I will 100% diverge if the party or the group goes in a different direction. So I do not always necessarily know what the party is going to even end up fighting or doing. So sometimes that can feel almost counterproductive. Secondly, and I've made this mistake many times, as I'm sure you all have, There are even monsters that I've read and I've studied, but they have so many different abilities, or there's something that has like a trait that like I missed because it's just like there's maybe a rules text that's buried in a trait somewhere. And I still get it wrong. So, yeah. I mean, yes, I think for Pathfinder 2, it's tough to just, I mean, you know, if it's like a hobgoblin or something, or a orc, I mean, that's pretty easy. But like something like I'll give you a great example of this. I'll bring it up here. Hold on a second. In the, okay, here we go. Let me bring it up here. Okay, boom. Look at that. Boom. Got this gigantic frostworm thing here. This is the frostworm from our Pathfinder 2, and I used one of these in the Rise of the Runelords game against the party during the when they were traversing up Hook Mountain. And I had known that there was a possibility for several different types of encounters, depending on how we were doing this sort of skill challenge, clock challenge. And so this wasn't a guarantee that they were going to encounter this monster, but I knew that there was a chance that they could encounter this monster. And so I had, you know, pulled this monster up. I had had a battle map ready for it, along with this monster, this cool, huge, cold creature. And then I think some people rolled on Wheel of Pain, and I think 2 party members ended up getting mazed right at the beginning of the fight because of the Wheel of Pain. And we ended up saying that they, like, you take that and you make a narrative, right? Which we changed it to that as the frostworm erupted from the ground, right? The ice that they were standing on, the snow ice, shattered and broke, and 2 characters, I think it was Escanor and Asius, fell into crevasses, into ice. And then instead of having to make survival checks to get out, I think we made it athletics checks to represent them trying to climb their way back into the fight. But as per the spell Maze, we treated it like they were just out of the game. Anyways, we had this awesome fight versus the frostworm, and to be fair, I thought it was going to be pretty bad, and the group actually managed to recover pretty quickly from it. But it died, and I totally missed, because I'm down here, like, okay, yep, got it. And then the creature, what it can do with its breath weapon and its jaws and its trilling, and then it died, and I completely forgot that it had this 100-foot burst 10d8 cold explosion. Oops, like when you have a creature like this that has a breath weapon and a trill and a jaws that does damage and persistent damage, and the creature is immune, and it has weaknesses, and it has a reaction that depends on what kind of damage they take. Is it piercing or is it slashing? And then when it does trigger, it's a random creature, and it's got to be within 10 feet. And then you got to roll 7d6 cold damage, and then that person has to make a reflex save. And then you have to figure out if they took double damage or half damage or full damage or no damage. Oh, and the creature has an aura, and it is a 5 feet, and then they have to make a save too. And then you're rolling more dice. You're just not going to remember. Like, you're going to miss some of this. You're just going to miss some of this. There's just no way, I think, practically, there is no way to run this creature well. Full stop. Would be my saying. Unless you play, very, very mechanically and methodically, right? But if I'm the game master and I'm sitting here and I'm playing with you, right? Like, what am I doing, right? I'm looking at Joe. I'm looking at Rui. I'm looking at Ryan. And I'm trying to gauge their interest. I'm trying to gauge their reaction. If I see somebody's maybe, holding back a little bit, I'll try to bring them into the game. I'm sitting here. I'm trying to describe, what does your character see? What does your character hear? What does your character smell? What does a frostworm's blood, as it sprays in your face, what does it taste like? Oh, it tastes like antifreeze. Oh, that's so cool. It smells like antifreeze. Oh, that's cool. I'm imagining this creature spraying me out with this green, antifreeze blood. Like, I'm thinking about all of these things, and I'm thinking about the initiative order and who's next and where I am. And then I'm also trying to make mechanical decisions. Okay, this creature is quadriflanked by the party. Is there anything I can do? I don't know. It's got burrowing. Can it move? I don't know. 18 people have attack of opportunity, but does the creature know that they have attack of opportunity? Probably not. It's intelligence -4. It's not going to really react. It's not going to really, but it's also not going to behave strategically anyways. I don't know. The creature probably doesn't want to die. Does it? Anyway, you're making all these decisions. If you're doing all that and you're emoting and describing, but you're also being a sort of a game therapist, game psychologist, and you're paying attention to your players and you're listening to what they're saying and you're encouraging them, come on, yeah, that's a great description. Give me more. Or you're saying, hey, like, all right, yeah, you're attacking. How are you attacking? Okay, you hit it. What does that sound like when your maul crushes into the creature? Give me feedback. If you're doing all that, I think it's very hard for you to play this creature correctly. Now, if you're playing Pathfinder 2, where you're like, okay, all right, the Frostworm is going to move, it's going to move 20 feet. It's going to move like this to avoid any triggering reactions from movement. And then I think it's going to use second action to initiate a melee jaws at 0 map, targeting the paladin. So here we go, jaws plus 25. Like if you're playing like that, okay, yeah, you could probably play this creature, but that's not how I play. I think it's kind of hard. So I would say that if you're gonna play Pathfinder 2, you need to read these monsters. They're too hard. They're too hard to not read the monsters. So yes. So Joe, I take that back. I do read the monsters, or at least I try to. That they are. Rui, other than Legend of the Five Rings, what other game has the best mechanics to tie roleplay and combat together? Can you briefly tell us what that mechanism is? Roleplay and combat. Ooh. Well, I think I've mentioned this before on the chat, but the 2d20 system, which is by Mophidius. There we go. Oh, it's upside down. So this is Star Trek Adventures, but there's a bunch of 2d20 games. This uses the 2d20 system. It also does a very good job, and they've got a Conan game, they've got a Star Trek game, they've got a Dune game. Excuse me. They have a John Carter of Mars game. They have a Fallout game. They have Mutant Chronicles. Dan, have fun in the United Kingdom, my friend. Hopefully we'll maybe see you on a little bit, but if not, we'll catch you in a couple of weeks. And enjoy your trip. So yeah, I think 2d20 does a really good job of it. Oh, Octung Cthulhu. Yes, exactly. Yes, also that. So those games I care a little bit more. I would also say Fate, or specifically Fate Accelerated Edition, also called Fae. So Fate Accelerated Edition, which is like free online. If you look that up, that actually I think is a really cool role-playing system. It's very lightweight, but it I think does a good job of asking your character how they are doing something, not necessarily what they are doing. So I think that's pretty good too. Ryan, let's talk about recall knowledge. Actually, I have an idea for recall knowledge. I might. I mean, it's nothing revolutionary or anything like that, but I think there's ways to make it actually more interesting. I like that it's a mechanic, and I like that it's fun, and it's cool to engage with. But yeah, it needs help. It needs work. So maybe something I can figure out and put into Battle Cry either this month or next month. John, welcome. You are here. You are late. Not that late. You're fine. We're just hanging out tonight. We got 40 people in here. What's up, everybody? Again, give me your questions, everybody. I'm happy to answer. I'm trying to work my way through here. Let's see. Yeah, speaking about those monsters before, I agree with Ryan. I actually think they're tough to run even on Foundry because all the abilities are like, you have to scroll through them. It's hard for me to have the monsters sheet up. And maybe if it's like one monster, I can do that. I actually have 4 monitors for my gaming system streaming setup. But like if it's one monster, okay, I can pop out its sheet and keep it up on this monitor, like the whole thing. But if I have multiple different creatures with multiple different things, like forget about it. It's just too hard. Well, I mean, the problem, Ryan, if we're gonna get off on this tangent, and I won't get into it unless someone really wants to dig into it, is for all of their abilities that are on their sheet, a lot of times the most effective thing that a creature can do is just attack twice, especially if it's higher level. I mean, if it has like an AoE or a breath weapon or something that it can target multiple people with a very high DC, like it could do that too, but a lot of times, if it has all this crazy stuff on the sheet, a lot of times it's better off just attacking twice, and certainly at least attacking once with 0 map for sure. Ryan, I would love to play a TTRPG in the setting of Dune. Yeah, I'm actually really excited. It's not here. It's in my car. Let me take a look at this. Here is, briefly, I've said this before, so I'm going to talk about this again. Here, briefly, this is my problem with Dune. My problem with Dune is my same problem with, well, it's really my problem with Dune, but it's my problem with a lot of really cool IPs, which is this. They have these incredible, awesome, amazing worlds with this really rich and unique setting that not only is cool and has like interesting elements, but like the very nature of the element of the setting is set up to create conflict and intrigue. And it's like primed for this like really cool adventure. So if you take like something like the universe of Dune, you have this all powerful emperor who commands this, elite army of Sardaukar, which, he uses to keep people in line. But there is this Landsraad, this council of noble people who, like in a feudal-like society, rule over these worlds. And then there's the Spacing Guild, who have monopoly on trade, and they all, rely on spice. And it's like, and then you've got Bene Gesserit and Mentats and Bene Tlilax and all this other cool stuff. And like that's where the book starts. And by the end of the first book, all of that is kind of thrown out the window, right? Because the big protagonist from the big movie or the big book came in and, undid everything, right? Lord of the Rings is another great example of it. You're like, look how cool Lord of the Rings is. It's like, yeah. And then in the span of like 1 year, they beat Mordor, they beat Sauron, they throw the ring in the thing and everything's great. 4th Age. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, so like the drama and the tension of the world is kind of solved. It's kind of done. So what I bought, what they came out with is this, which I bought here. So this is called Dune, Adventures in, hey!
$75. Have to beam aboard the USS Calliope for tonight's community game of STA. Have a great stream.
Ben, thank you very, 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 very much. Massive tip, huge hype boss train. Thank you, buddy. Enjoy your Star Trek adventures. I cannot wait to get back to that game. I think it's a really fun system. It's certainly so far my favorite 2D20 system. And I bet you run it so awesome. So I'd love to one day get a game with like you and me and Damien and Kaz and our friend Ross. It would be so fun to do that, Ben. So thank you for running that game. And thank you for that very, very generous tip. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Enjoy your game. Love to see it. Wow. Ben, incredible friend of the show, huge supporter, talker of the show, but he also helps us with our, music, and he helps us with our podcast. He helps us edit that stuff, and he just really, really helps us out. It's really, really cool that he does all those things. So, anyways, I'm gushing about Ben, but he is really good. Okay, so anyways, getting back before Ben so rudely interrupted us with his massive tip. That didn't sound right. So, okay, this box set is for the Dune 2D20 game. But what it is here, and this is what's really interesting about this, it's called Dune, Adventures in the Imperium, Agents of Dune. Wait, is this it? Yeah, I think it is. Well, maybe this doesn't describe it the way I want it to be described. Okay, here we go. This is the description I wanted. Okay, here we go. So what this does, it says, Arrakis is yours. All right? It says, your house is to become... Uh-oh. I don't... Combat Medic Bush, I don't know why you got banned by the bot. I'm sorry. You didn't get banned. You got timed out for 5 minutes. I'm sorry about that, buddy. I wish I knew how to fix that. Bad bot, I guess. I don't know how. Apparently they've used... You know what I think it is? I think it's ellipses. I think it doesn't like ellipses. You put a bunch of ellipses. I don't know. It's really weird sometimes. Sorry, everybody. Anyways, so I'm getting off the topic. So this is the Dune Adventures in the Imperium Agents of Dune box set. It's a mini campaign. It says Arrakis is yours. Your house is to become the new governor of Arrakis in an alternate what if scenario, where you must ensure the supply of the vital spice melange to the known universe. With the eyes of the entire Imperium watching your every move, can you retain control of Arrakis, or will this appointment spell the destruction of your house? So what's really cool about this idea is it gets rid of, I mean, House Atreides might be in here, but it gets rid of basically Paul and the Kwisatz Haderach and the jihad and Paul, becoming the God Emperor and taking over and like ruining all this. And instead, you're just, it's like a what if scenario. It's an alternate history of Arrakis where, or the Dune universe, where House Atreides never took control of the fiefdom of Arrakis. And instead, your made up cool house with its own kind of cool history. So I feel more free from this situation. I feel more free to have fun and to do things. And so I'm really excited. I bought this box set. It's in my car. I haven't, because I ordered it on Amazon, or I might have ordered it actually from Modifius. I don't think it was on Amazon. But anyways, to me, this is how I would want to play. And, also quite frankly, like a game like Dune, like D&D, Pathfinder, these 20 level games, which I think is just too long anyways. But, they're designed to be played for years and years and years. Maybe, but like a game like Dune, I wouldn't want that to go more than, maybe 12 to 20 sessions, right? Like you want it to have things happening, right? Like I feel like a lot of D&D games get away with being as long-winded as they are just because we have 20 levels. And that's just a number that Gary Gygax picked. There's nothing special about 20 levels. Like, if D&D or Pathfinder had 100 levels, would you really want to play? People would be like, yeah, man, my campaign's 10 years long. It's like, nobody wants to, do you really want to play that long? I don't think you saw. Like, if they magically flipped a switch and like suddenly D&D had always just been 10 levels, I don't think people wouldn't be complaining. They would just be playing 10 levels of D&D. Anyways. So that's why I think that's such a cool idea and such a cool concept, and I'm really excited about this Agent of Dune. Okay, well, apparently ellipses aren't a problem. I don't know why CMB got banned by the bot for 5 minutes, but there we are. All right, we got a lot of messages I missed here. Ryan, we're talking about recall knowledge from Pathfinder 2. Ryan has, I love recall knowledge. I've got a society character that's built around the action lore skill. I just wish the rules were more clear. It's a bit vague in the rule book. I agree. don't get me wrong, I like open-ended mechanics, but I still think that there should be more crunch to the rules, and that's kind of what I would like to kind of create and decide. I mean, it's very much inspired by games around me, like Powered by the Apocalypse, Blades in the Dark, things like that. But I think those systems could work very well, even in the context of a mechanical action tactical game like Pathfinder 2. Excuse me. John, we do the same thing. We tend to just click on the action as well so that everybody can read it. I do it certainly when we're running our streaming games so that people can see I'm not fudging and I'm just about to do whatever I'm about to do to the party. I got to level 5 and the most effective spell I learned is slow on a boss. Crit failure is nasty. Yeah, Ryan. Crit failure on a creature with slow is instant kill. You can just remove the creature. You have my permission. The spell is the S plus and S plus plus for its AoE version. It's just way too powerful. KC is correct. We are going to be playing Root soon. That is our next game. Our kind of an update on that. We have okay. When we first started this, we were playing in person at my photography studio, which I had because I was a photographer. My photography business went out of business. And we had started recording there because my photography business was doing nothing during COVID. And we started putting it on YouTube. Now the business closed and my lease was over and I was like, oh, I should just close it up. But I was like, you know what though? This channel thing, we've got 200 subs, maybe we'll stick it out. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go get a job. So I will rent a new space, a little bit smaller, but I'll rent a new space. That way we can continue to play in person. So I have this new studio space that we rented, but then I had a new job, and this was a year ago. I had a new job and everything was crazy and we were running around all the time and everyone's schedules got super busy and we started doing more and more stuff online. We started live streaming instead of doing the pre-recorded stuff because getting together with all the guys to talk about RPGs, number one, sometimes it was like pulling teeth to try to schedule that. You had 5 guys trying to get together. 2 of them live 45 minutes away. So that's an hour and a half both ways on a weekday. Especially during the winter time with the snow. You have 2 guys with kids. It was a nightmare. And not to mention editing, right? We talk for 2 or 3 hours. We end up with 4 hours of footage. We had 5-6 cameras. You're talking about 24 hours of footage that needs to be edited and spliced together. Sometimes it would take me 10 hours, 15 hours to edit a video because I'm not a professional editor. I mean, I've gotten pretty good, but I'm not by any stretch of the imagination what I would consider to be a pro. So we started doing more live streams and it was convenient for people. It was easy for people. We were having fun with it. We were doing, Rise of the Rune Lords as a live stream. We were doing these weekly live streams and everyone loved it. And so the studio has been sort of kind of neglected. So it's kind of in rough shape. And so what we wanted to do for Root was go back to it and really spice it up. We wanted to build a cool set and have some fun. Like right now, if you look at some of our videos where we were at our new studio, you could see we're just sitting in front of walls or black cloth drops that, it was pretty bleak, to be honest with you. So we want to do something fun and cool and challenge myself as a YouTube content creator and as a, person. And, everyone's generous enough to support us and give us tips and donations. And I'm always looking for a way to increase the value of this channel, increase the production quality of the channel. And so I wanted to build out a cool studio, not Critical Role level, but, maybe most of the way there. Like if Critical Role is a 100, if Dimension 20 is a 100, maybe we're like, I don't know, an 80 or a 90. I thought that would be really cool. So I wanted to put in new cameras, new microphones that use like shotgun microphones so that you don't have microphones in people's face while we're playing, cool backgrounds with cool lighting. Well, turns out that that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. like way more work than I ever expected it to be. And Bob is usually my go-to kind of construction buddy for projects like this, and he's just been crushed basically the whole month of August with family stuff, and his wife was in this huge bocce tournament, and he was out for like a whole week. And then anyways, the kids are starting school and you name it. So it's been tougher than I expected to get. So my original goal was to start Root at the beginning of August. And I was like, oh, okay, this is going to take us a lot longer to get this studio ready than I thought. All right, maybe we'll get it at the beginning of September. Well, and then, like I said, August came and went with very little being done. Bob and I were able to put together like 5 or 6 backdrop walls, construction out of 2x4s and plywood, to start building together the studio set. But we still need to make a new table. I still need to order between me and you, more money than I should be spending for a studio set for a YouTube channel that, quite frankly, doesn't really get a lot of views. Again, our YouTube channel exists because of tips and donations and because of our Patreon, full stop. But it's in my nature. I can't help myself. I always have to put in more and more effort. So I'm probably going to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, $5,000 updating and upgrading the studio to increase the production quality and to make it have the features that I think a good channel and good show should have. Now, the fact of the matter is, I see Shadram said, got to spend money and make money, apparently. I mean, on YouTube, apparently, some people just, they just record with their phone and they have 100,000 subs. So I don't really think this quality thing is, I'm not under any delusions that this quality and updating the studio is going to like make us blow up and become hugely successful. It's not. I'm just doing it because it's the way I do things. I put my heart and my soul into things, and I try to make it as good as I know how to make it. And that's all I know how to do. All right. That was about Root. Let's see. Joe, okay, Rico knowledge was used tonight's game, and 2 of the players rolled successes, so I told them they got each a piece of info. They could learn weaknesses, resistances, immunities, or attacks if a creature had no immunities. That's basically how I ran it, Joe, in my my home tabletop game as well. I would let people learn its offensive capabilities, its defensive capabilities, and then any special information about it. And regardless of the check, I would always, even if they failed, I would almost always tell them the creature's level and hit points, I think. I don't know. I always told them something, even if they failed, unless they critically failed. And I would never lie to them because I hate that rule and it should be destroyed. But even on a failure, because it's bad enough to spend your action to attack and you miss and you do nothing. I mean, I get it. That's just what D20 is. But at least you're okay, but I'm attacking. It's cool. Nobody thinks recalling knowledge is cool. So even when a person fails, I think they should get something out of it personally. So, problem with playing something like Dune, your character will never be as cool as the Kwisatz Haderach. Right, Boothby, and that's why that Agents of Doom box set is really cool, because there is no Kwisatz Haderach. The Bene Gesserit are still ongoing, still looking for one, still trying to find the Kwisatz Haderach, right? Then just going through the chat, so I'm just catching up again. Ben, thank you again for that $75 tip. You are a very generous man. Appreciate it. Let's see. I'm looking for anything with questions here. Sorry if I'm missing some of the conversation. All right. It looks like we're at the bottom of the screen. Well, how about it, folks? Any questions for me? I'll go off on. I'll talk about something if you want me to. I mean, I'm here for you. That's what this stream is about. These streams are just, I just want to be a Freeman, pee my pants and ride a worm. Anime. I don't enjoy. The only anime I really like is Record of Lodoss War. I like some of the early, like I'm more likely to like something like Akira or Fist of the North Star or something like traditional and classic. But even I think Akira is kind of weird. And Fist of the North Star is kind of weird. Ghost in the Shell is kind of weird. But I do like Record of Lodoss War. The original series is pretty great, but even the Chronicles of Heroic Knight is pretty fun too. I liked Shira and Orson; those were cool characters. So I did like those. Let's see here. How is Pathfinder 2nd Edition for hirelings and henchmen? Blaine, I'm just going to say bad. And the reason why I say bad, Blaine, is because one, it's a complex game. You're already running a complex character. So even if the hireling or the henchman is very simple, you're still adding 2 points of complexity to a 5 out of 5 complexity character. So it's very difficult. And that's assuming that the henchman is very simplistic. If the henchman's not simplistic, then it's even a more bigger problem. Secondly, hirelings and henchmen you bring into a game because you need them. You bring in hirelings and henchmen because you aren't capable of taking out the creatures by yourself. You need hired guns. You need red shirts. In Star Trek the original series parlance. Pathfinder 2, your characters are superheroes. Literally. I mean, they get feats that let them run on walls and jump 200 feet and, leap into the sky and, crush into enemies. Like, they don't need a posse. They don't need a crew. So I think on one hand, the complexity of the game is too high for that kind of gameplay. And secondly, I don't think you need them because your characters are so proficient. And then even if they are somehow lower level, the game will completely punish them because they'll be instantly crit by almost every monster you fight, and they'll have a very hard time landing an attack on anything that is even remotely challenging to you. Unless the hireling or henchman is like your level, in which case, why is that your hireling or henchman if they're the same level as you? So it's a problematic system for sure. You'd have to fundamentally restructure things for sure. Hey, Scratch Paper. Thank you for that super chat, buddy. Scratch Paper Games with one of my favorite avatar icons in the biz, doing some damage to the massive Ben. What's a major or profound lesson you've learned while running a session that caused you to change your game for the better? I've asked it of many DMs, and it's always helpful and enlightening. What's a major or profound lesson you've learned while running a session that caused you to change your game for the better? For me, I think it is like I'm human just like everybody else, and I have narcissistic biases and tendencies, and there's always a moment where I in the past would be rolling and I roll behind the screen and it's a shitty roll or it's a critical hit. And I know that this is going to be like a real mood killer, or like, it was like, I'm like, I wanted this to be such an awesome moment. Right. And this is where people start to fudge. And it's because when I started playing the game, you had this DM screen, and it was this idea that like, even the DM's guide was like, this is hidden knowledge. This is secret knowledge. This is knowledge that you should not be sharing with the party. And here is your screen to protect the information from the players, right? It's this adversarial concept. It's the same idea that is still baked into the DNA of games like Pathfinder 2 with secret checks and lying to your players if they roll poorly, but you rolled for them. It puts all of this power into the GM's hands. But I realized I didn't want that power. I wanted to be free of any feelings of guilt or obligation. And I remember first time rolling my dice in front of the screen. And almost to the point where I didn't need a screen anymore. I think at a certain point, I think I only used the screen for when there were actions for which the players like would fundamentally never know that what this outcome was. Like, you know, if they were sneaking, well, I mean, nowadays I'll just let them roll a stealth check. I don't care that the player knows that they rolled poorly and that the player knows that the character isn't actually being all that stealthy. I trust my players enough to go, yeah, my character would think they're being stealthy. That's like that level of player versus PC disconnect that I think people can have. But if you're playing the game like it's like you're trying to win, then that could be a problematic. But for me, it was probably maybe like 3rd edition D&D, honestly. Late. Actually, no. Because even in 4th edition, I think I rolled my dice behind the screen. So, like, I think it might have been Pathfinder 1 after 4th edition. Because we played 4th edition. 4th edition came out like 2008. Pathfinder 1 came out like 2009-ish. But we weren't playing Pathfinder 1 because we were playing 4th edition. We played 4th edition D&D until about 2011 or so, 2010. And then we started playing Pathfinder pretty much full time. And I remember playing Pathfinder, and I just remember being like, no, I'm over this. I'm just rolling in front of the screen. You guys can know. I'll let you know the attack roll. It doesn't matter. I rolled a 13. I'm telling you that I got a 21. You know it has a +8 to hit. I don't care. I want to be part. I want to have the fun too. And also, I don't want to have you thinking, was this real or not? Did they just fudge? Did they give us that win? Did that monster really crit? Or is Derek mad because I beat his puzzle? Like, I just wanted to free myself, you know, very much like Serenity Now. Just, you know, it's a very Zen Buddhist idea, right? That I gained control by letting go. And for me, so at that same time period, I was going to Gen Cons, and I was being introduced to games like Apocalypse World and Dungeon World. And so when I encountered Dungeon World or Apocalypse World, and the GM didn't even roll dice, I was like, oh yeah. Oh, I'm listening. This is, tell me more. This is even better for me, right? Because now you can't blame me. And it's all in the player's hands. And that's where I want it to be. They're the protagonists. They're the ones that are taking the big risks. They're the ones that are doing the big, important things. For me, letting go of secret roles, you know, putting that information out there, trusting my players to play correctly. You know, Bob always talks about this when he was first playing with us. His mind would be blown because like they'd fight something and I'd be like, Bob, you're tracking his hit points. It's got 115. And Bob would be like, 115? You know, he's writing it down. He's like, oh my God. And I think that just only increases the interest of the game. The players are more engaged. The players are more involved. Like, there are some things that video games do that get it right? Like they put that big boss hit point bar right across the top of your screen in an MMO or a video game. And I think that's a good idea. It's a pacing mechanism. Let the players be part of it. It's a game. And I was tired of playing Wizard of Oz. I was tired of this smoke and illusion. Like, oh, you guys don't know what's going on behind my secret magic screen. This is where all the magic happens. It's like, I didn't want it to be like that. I wanted it to be a collaborative effort, not smoke and mirrors. And so that for me was, I think, probably one of the biggest profound changes in the way that I rolled my game, ran my game. I can't tell you specifically if there was a moment that caused me to change, like exactly. I just know that it just started happening more and more and more and more. And it kind of took over the way that I ran my game. Gosu says, sad that he missed or sad that they missed the Pathfinder Legend of Five Rings stream, but appreciate our efforts. Keep it up. I will. I love it. Question, as a longtime player, just a little younger than me, do you feel players these days play less different games than we did in the 80s, 90s? You mean like TTRPGs? No, because in the 80s and 90s, I feel like most people just played D&D in the 90s, and then you had the White Wolf crowd, and they played White Wolf, and they LARPed, and that was like the two big components of it. So I think people were always pretty much into D&D. I think the advent of the internet and the rise of independent publishing and Kickstarter and stuff, if anything, has just expanded it far more. How about Studio Ghibli Hayao Miyazaki? Is that like Spirited Away and stuff, and something Castle, Howl at the Moon Castle? No, I don't really like that either. I've seen 2 of those. I think those 2. I don't know exactly what the second name was. I'm sorry if I butchered it, but not my style. William Brandis says, no questions, but I'm writing the new zone guide now. He means for Northern Reaches. And this shit is going to be lit, if I do say so myself. Oh, really?
RPG! 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 RPG!
Speaking of Record of Lotus War, though, a cameo is in there too. Ooh, I'm excited to see what you got there, Mr. Smith. Props, big shout out to Mr. Smith and Mr. Bumbarger for all the hard work that they're putting into Northern Reaches. Bob's running a lot of games, and Smith and Bob are both hard at work, overlording and creating new expansions, new zones, doing all the behind the scenes work. Really, really, really crazy. So good stuff. Calatrix, I'm kind of younger than most of your audience, and I don't really have too much experience with TTRPGs. Would love to play some more TTRPGs. So I'm wondering how new player friendly is the Discord games? Incredibly newbie friendly. We get a lot of people who come in there who have never played online games before. We get people who have never really played anything other than D&D 5e or Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I hate to say it. I'm going to say it, but I'm going to say it. I don't want to say it, but I'll say it. We charge money to be in our Discord. And because we charge money, it keeps out a lot of the crappy people. I'm not saying that like you need to have money to not be crappy, but what I'm saying is that when you don't have to pay any money to be in a Discord, when you have these public open Discords, you just get a bunch of anonymous trolls, people who are just, going to come in there and be shitty and be awful and not really care and not have any skin in the game. To sign up for our Discord, you have to give me your real Gmail address, and you have to have your Patreon account, and you're going to be paying money to be there. So if you want to pay $10 and come in and be an asshole and then get booted and kicked and not refunded your money, I mean, okay, you could do that. But guess what? We've had one person that we've ever banned. So, the fact that we have a lot of people in there too who are game masters means that these are people who are intrinsic, even as players, but they game master in their own games, means that they are always thinking about the new player experience. So I think it's particularly newbie friendly, and yeah, I'd say it's worth giving it a shot. Casey agrees with me. Thank you, Casey. GM Scott, sorry, this is a long time. We were talking about the hirelings. But says, I am Superman, but I need you to carry my 10-foot pole. You don't even need that because the encumbrance and bulk rules are ridiculous. So, got a lot. All right, getting caught up here, people. Trying, or at least I'm trying to. Joe. I mean, I do believe the Matt Mercer effect is real, but I don't think Critical Role ruined TTRPGs. I'll say that. Shadram, I really enjoy the dramatic irony of... I already know where you're going with this. I really enjoy the dramatic irony of having the players know they're doing bad, but their characters think they're being awesome. As a player, it's the most fun I have role-playing. Exactly, Shadram, because believe it or not, that is role-playing. Talking like this is not role-playing. Role-playing is when you, the player, want to do X, but the mechanics of the game, the nature of a dice roll, the forcing of the character demands that you do Y. That is role playing. Okay. When you are just treating your character like they are a fully controlled puppet where you could just do anything you want, that's not role playing. That's not role playing. That's a video game. You're just, they're not a real person. They're just, an automaton, an avatar for you as a player. Yeah, my character knows everything I know. They'll do whatever I want them to do. Role playing is a bit kind of like being an actor, where your character, because of the mechanics of the game, has to behave a certain way. And it's up to you, the player. The challenge is, how do I make that come to life? And that, to me, is the fun of role playing. And that's what we call true role playing, Smith and I, to distinguish it, because role playing is a loaded term. I use it in two ways. Everybody else uses it in a third way, which I think is horrible. Most people use role playing as a term meaning acting, or as a term meaning talking with NPCs. So there's a lot of bad definitions of role playing that I don't ascribe to. People say, oh, our game had a lot of role play. And I go, it's a role playing game. So if you at any point in time weren't role playing, what were you doing? At some point, did you just start fighting each other with, fake swords? Because that wouldn't be role playing. But if you were playing a game where you were describing and controlling the actions of another player and you're inhabiting their behavior and mannerisms, that's always role playing. Even if you're in combat, you're still role playing. Anyways, but I do acknowledge the fact that the traditional role playing games, aka the D&Ds of the 1970s, up until Pathfinder 2 and D&D today, this traditional role playing is this idea of, I am controlling this character and they are my sort of avatar in this world space. And I have to react and control their actions. But what I call true role playing are games like Fate or Dungeon World, or even a game like Pathfinder 2, when you start including things like the dramatic irony that Shadram is talking about, and role playing becomes a challenge. It becomes a task as difficult and as rewarding as any combat, as any flanking to gain a +2 or put a -2 on your enemy, because it can be really, really fun to be like, I, Derek, know. If you've ever played a game where, the GM has charmed you or dominated you and been like, hey, you think that this guy is your best friend, and I, hope that you do that. And you're like, oh yeah, totally. And you had a lot of fun with that. And you being like, guys, we should really, not you, the player, know that this guy's like an evil wizard who's trying to pull one over on you in the party. But as a player, you can have fun because your PC, because they're magically compelled, thinks that this wizard is their best friend. And so when you go to, your party members, you're going to be like, guys, this wizard is the real deal. I know him from back when I was young. We should totally listen to him. And you can have fun with that. But it doesn't have to be a magical charm spell for that situation to come up. That situation can come up in many different situations. And leaning into that and having fun with that, that is what I would call true role playing. Let's see. Any general advice for new GMs? I'm often the least experienced player at the table when I run. Can be intimidating sometimes. Well, as a new GM, I think you should definitely, make an effort to feel comfortable with the rule set, but don't be so, concerned with getting everything right. Also, set clear expectations. Tell your players, hey, everyone, I'm new at this. I understand that I'm probably going to make some mistakes, and I even may make some errors or rules errors. But I'm going to ask politely that if I don't ask you for a clarification on a rule, please don't correct me. And furthermore, at the end of the session, we will have a time for us to have a discussion about things that I did that I maybe got the ruling wrong on, so that you guys can help me become a better game master. But for the sake of the game and for the sake of having fun and integrity in playing, also for me, as a chance for me to learn and grow, I'm just going to ask that you put your wealth of experience and just take a step back and let me work without a net for a little bit. I'm going to make some mistakes. Just go with the flow. And again, if something horribly, terribly goes wrong, we can always roll it back at the end of the session. And if I am in a situation and I do ask you, for help, please feel free to jump in. But if I don't, no unsolicited advice, please, because I really just want to kind of own this on my own, because I think the best way to become better at GMing is to just GM and to work without a net and just to go with your gut and go with your instinct and worry about whether you got it right later on. So, and that's a great way that you can both acknowledge that your table, they have skills, they have experience, they know what they're talking about. And you're even saying at the end of the session, we are going to I'm going to set aside 15, 20 minutes so that you can point out some things that I did. Maybe you would have done it differently, or you would have done it wrong. Or I did it wrong, but I should have played it this way. That's great. I'd love to hear that and be genuinely honest about it. Like, I do want that feedback. But if players are always jumping in and like second guessing you during the course of the game, like, that's not going to be good for anybody. So, you definitely need to try to shut that down beforehand. And I know this because as someone who typically knows these games fairly well, that is something for me. Sometimes I gotta, bite my tongue, because it can be hard for me not to want to jump in and be like, he actually gets supposed to. Now, if you know the GM and you're there very comfortable and they don't mind being corrected, like, that's fine. That's different. But for like a new GM, it can, you just got to sit on your hands, bite your tongue, and just let them do their own thing. And if they need help, they'll ask for it. Other than that, shut up, enjoy the game, and go with the flow. So, how do you feel about one-shots? I don't like them. How do you feel about one-shots and new players having no idea what feats and skills do, and it takes taking game time to look everything up? Adrian, sounds horrible. That's why I don't like one-shots, especially in complex games like Pathfinder 2. Full stop. If I'm playing a one-shot game with Pathfinder 2, then I want to be playing with some of these stone-cold killing pros like we have here in the chat and like we have in our Northern Reaches, games. People who are super hyper nerds who, like, they've never played a fighter, but they know all the fighter feats better than most people out there who are playing a fighter currently. If those people, if we want to play a one shot, that's fine, because they're going to know these things like the back of their hand. But for most normal human beings, and certainly not past level 3. Like, okay, if you're level 1, you've got 1 feat, you have 2 spells. Okay, maybe it's not so bad. But it's like, oh, hey, here's your level 3 character for this one shot. You have a couple skill feats and a general feat and an ancestry feat and 2 or 3 class feats, and you have 6 spells. It's like, and anything higher than that, obviously, it's even more ridiculous. No, I don't like it. For one shots, I've always relied on systems that are very, very simple. Also, part of the fun of a character, part of the fun of the Pathfinder 2 system is building up that complexity. Good night, Rui. Thanks for joining us. Part of the fun of Pathfinder 2 is that it is a complex system and that you are growing and learning and building with that system. Like I don't even think playing it as a one shot is really all that interesting or entertaining. I think part of the fun of a game like that is to grow and build your character up. All right, let's see. I'm way behind on chat. Sorry, people. All right, apparently Amazon has the Harkonnen Key CE core rulebook for $24.99. That's the collector's edition, $24.99. You should go get it. Get it through our Amazon affiliate link. We don't have one. I mean, we do, but it's not on this video. But you should buy everything from Amazon through our affiliate links. Joe, I tried to correct myself by saying that crappy people are poor. I did not. I tried to explain it. Look at Bob's progression. Never GM'd Pathfinder, and now he's he's stealing live stream viewers every week. Adrian, thank you for that super stat and those stickers. Appreciate it. That's awesome. Thank you. Oh, there it is. There it is. Super chat. Took a little bit to come in there. Bob giving you the wiggle. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Blaine, on that topic, the thoughts on mechanics like traits and passions as found in the Pendragon RPG, so one dice can to see how the character reacts to situations so the player may not know its outcome. Yeah, I love that stuff. I think Pendragon's really cool. I know a lot of people hate the idea of my character having thoughts and feelings and ideas that I don't have complete control over, but I think it's really interesting, and I think it's a really, really fun challenge. And KC said, yeah, the L5R stream on Sunday fully unlocked that thought process for me. I always knew role-playing was making decisions different than the player would, but the how makes more sense to me now. That's awesome. Exactly. I think it's really, really entertaining and fun and just so cool and so great. And again, ideally, you shouldn't be punished for making these systems. The game should reward you or encourage you. In fact, if we look at the original Powered by the Apocalypse game, you had four stats. You had hot, cold, weird, and violent. Can't even remember what they were. But you had 4 stats, right? And you had good stats and bad stats. At the beginning of every session, the player with who you had the highest history score, and the GM would each pick a stat. So you'd have 2 stats, and they would highlight that stat for the session. Okay. And when that stat got highlighted, every time you made a roll using that stat, you got to mark an experience point. And it was a great way for another player at the table and for the game master to be like, you know what? I want to see this from you tonight. I want to see your character being suave and being passionate and being rowdy and being raunchy. And I am highlighting your hot stat tonight. And I want to see you get people, turned up and turned on. And the player goes, okay, cool. I could totally ignore that. But the game is now going to give me an experience point every time I make a hot check. Yeah, I'm going to make a lot of hot checks tonight because I want to play and I want to gain experience points. Plus, that's what these people want to see. Plus, it's an interesting dimension for my character. What if your hot, by the way, is really bad? Awesome. Funny. Cool. But normally you wouldn't make hot checks if your hot score was -2 because you suck at it. But now I'm getting bonus experience points every time I make a hot check. And it's interesting and it's character developing and it's going to lead to funny situations and it's going to lead to interesting situations. It's going to lead to dramatic situations. Again, role-playing just because my character wants to be difficult and painful and is going to do the wrong thing and the bad thing. And it's like, well, what's the reward for that? Well, nothing. I don't gain anything. And I'm kind of probably pissing off the other players at my table. And it's actually making my life really difficult. Actually, I'm probably going to end up getting less experience points for the session than I would otherwise. So in all possible ways, this is a horrible idea. That's bad. That means that the game system is not set up to reward or encourage the kind of behavior that you are talking about. Like, if players ever take a series of actions in your Pathfinder game or your D&D game, and it's like, everyone's like, that was an awesome session. Everyone's like, yeah, high-fiving each other, and it was great. And then you realize that per the rules of the game, they achieved nothing and therefore get no experience. You might have to ask yourself, am I rewarding experience for the right thing? Because that's how we reward people in this game, is with experience. That's what we have decided upon in Pathfinder 2 and D&D. That's what you get. So you need to think, how do I gain experience? What gives us that? And how do I reward that? Well, if you want to encourage people to do things that maybe are in their characters, not in their character's best interest, but you're expecting the player to play along with that, you need to come up with some form of incentive. 100%. because otherwise you're just trusting the player to make bad decisions because it would be good for their character. And I think that's a terrible decision. I think that's terrible. Let's see.
Dungeons and Dragons. Satan's game.
Question. Did you ever have a boss monster die in the first round of combat? All the time. All the time. Not so much in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, because kind of hard to do that because of incapacitation rules. But Joe, if you listen to our story time live stream, the final epic boss of an entire 20-level 3rd edition campaign was this super advanced, soul-sucking, monstrous, demonic Baylor pit fiend creation. And the barbarian Vorpal killed him on the first round of combat. So that alone happened. I remember they fought this fallen deity in a campaign who was like not a god anymore, but he was still a really high CR creature. He was like CR 21, 22. Might have been a Titan in terms of the stats. And he was this like big, huge thing, and he had like this whole realm. He used to be the god of dreams or something like that. He had tried to usurp reality or something like that. Anyways, the party encountered him, and the party cleric, this is 3rd edition, you love to cast the destruction spell. And the destruction spell was they make a fort save. If they fail the fort save, they're dead. If they pass the fort save, they take 10d6 damage. And he never expected really the creatures to fail the fort save. If they did, it was a cool bonus. Mostly he just did it for 10d6 damage. And he walked up and he was just very casually like, destruction. And I rolled the die and it was a nat 1. And I go, nat 1. And he's dead. He just blows up. And everyone's like, oh, okay, cool. And that's it. You just move on. Like, shit happens. I don't know. I actually think to me, those are more memorable. I could tell you more about these creatures that died in the first round of combat than the creatures that died in like the 10th. There's a very small handful of creatures that really, was this epic, drawn out, super long fight, and everybody loved it. Most of the time, stories that people always tell is usually the creature that died in the first round of combat. So, is the commission from Amazon Affiliate Link actually meaningful money? No, not at all. I mean, maybe if you're, if you're Cody Ko or you're, Danny Gonzalez or you're PewDiePie, I'm sure, or any of those other people, if you're Smarter Every Day or Mark Roper or any of those people with millions and millions of subs, yeah, I mean, it adds up. But for us, lifetime, maybe like $25 after, having this channel for like 2 years. That intro to GMing series with you and Bob was fantastic. It's technically still going on. Bob's just been running so many games that he doesn't have time to get instruction anymore. He's he's too big for his britches now. He's Mr. Big Time over here, always running games. Chris Jones, how often do you typically roll for random encounters, and how expansive is a table usually? Well, John gives you the best advice, which is check out Battle Cry #1. And what John is talking about there, Chris, is we at Knights of Last Call have started producing a monthly PDF e-zine. It's kind of a zine. We're new at this, so we're only going for like 1 or 2 articles at first. If we can get the time and the energy and the money and the contributions, maybe we'll make it a little bit bigger. But it's going to be something we produce every month. It's available to our patrons at the $10 a month or higher level. Champion tier is what we call it, or hero tier. And you get access to it. Now, we are going to be taking off issue 1 here probably next week because we don't want to, you had to be there to get it. And we're eventually going to create a system where people can go back and maybe buy back issues, but then we have to set up an online store. So potentially it's going to be locked out for a while. So definitely, if you're interested in that, pick it up. And in Battle Cry #1, our very first article was written by William Brandis, detailing sort of the system that we've used as a group for a long time to make random encounters interesting and fun. And in particular, Aaron Smith, brought in a lot of his ideas about not just random encounters, but really more like random idea generators, random adventure generators. And the idea that random encounter does not always mean random fight or combat. And so there's a lot of really, really great information in there. So I don't want to like beat a dead horse there, but how often do I roll for random encounters? The answer is, it depends. It depends on, I like to cross-reference or cross-matrix the danger of an area with the level of activity of an area. For example, if you're in an area that is very, very, very heavily populated, then I might roll a random encounter every 10 minutes. But if you're in an ancient tomb where nothing barely ever moves, then I might roll a random encounter every hour or every 4 hours. That's one axis. The frequency is depending for me on how active this area is. A thriving, overrunning goblin warren might roll random encounters every 10 minutes. An ancient, long dead tomb where the guardians rest might not even have random encounters, or if it does, they're very, very rare. Then, kind of separate to that is how likely is there to be, or how dangerous is this random encounter? And that's something that I can vary and change depending on the players. And that basically comes down to the frequency. So how expansive is that table? That's a good question. I usually like to have at least 6 things on there, sometimes going up to more to 10. I don't personally like to have more than that. If some other person has written a really cool random encounter table and it's got a bunch of stuff on there, cool, I'll use that. But like if I'm making something, I usually just have like 6 to 8 or something like that. That's what I would say. But if you really want a ton of information about it, check out Battlecry issue number 1. It's still available through our champion tier Patreon. It's on our Patreon page. It's going to be coming down here probably next week, so you won't be able to get it, at least for a while. And then when you do, you have to pay money for it. And then once you're signed up for champion, you're going to get a new issue of Battlecry every month. So we're going to have one for September. We're going to have one for October. We're going to have one for, and that's the plan. Trademark. Oh my gosh. Shadram, question. Your last night school covered the first half of designing good encounters. Are you going to go back to that topic either in more night schools or another way? The first one was so useful to me. Yes, 100%. Definitely want to get back to that with Bob. Definitely want to talk about it. Shadram, this is also an area where Battlecry is going to be very useful for us because some of these systems, I like to talk about them on these channels. One of the things I talk about a lot is I don't like to just give people, here's an answer. I like to talk. I like to expand your mind. I like to get people to think for themselves, to generate their own ideas, to come up with ideas for stuff. But there are times where having a thought out, well-detailed system is a good idea. And that's where Battlecry could be so powerful for us because that's where I can sit down and actually process and write something out. But there is a lot more to say about encounter design. And yes, some of it comes from Dungeon World. Some of it comes from 4th edition D&D. Some of it comes from 13th Age. Those are just 3 games off the top of my head that I think have really good encounter design and encounter pacing. But that doesn't mean that we can't use those ideas to make our Pathfinder 2 game a little bit better, make our Pathfinder 2 encounters a little bit more interesting and better. So yes, I do want to do more night school. Bob needs to go through it, but I'm hoping to use the Battlecry platform in order to continue to produce, articles or at least subsystems that we can publish so that people can benefit from that. Question: does Bob have his own channel? He does not. Bob is a member of part-time employee of KOLC LLC. John, how long did it take you guys to get to 100 subs? I can answer that, John. Let's take a look. Let's go to the old YouTube. Let's take a look at our YouTube Studio account. Let's take a look at our analytics. And let's take a look at our Let's take a look at our subscribers for lifetime. All right. Well, looks like we gained subscribers. It's very fascinating. Here we go. So, somebody asked this question. It took us about three months to get to 100, and then let's see. And then it took us, gosh, it took us a long time to get to 1,000. Actually, I remember 1,000 because 1,000 is where you get monetized. We actually had a total, we actually had the watch hours a long time before we ever had the 1,000 subscribers. It took us a long time to get to 1,000 subscribers. I think we got to 1,000 subscribers right around July or August of 2021, and we launched the channel in the fall of 2020. So it almost took us a year to get to 1,000 subs. And so we actually just basically, we're about like, we've been monetized for about 13 or 14 months, because give or take. So yeah, it took us about not quite a year. Probably took us 10 months to get to 1,000 subs. And to be honest with you, we would have never gotten to 1,000 subs. We were just doing actual plays. We were just doing Rise of the Rune Lords, Pathfinder 2 actual plays. And then we were having problems. People kept not showing up. So like we'd have all the cameras ready to go, and then someone couldn't show up, and we didn't want to record because we'd be down a player. And so one day I was like, you know what, screw it, guys. We got 2 or 3 of us here. Let's just talk. We'll talk about games. And that became like the first time we did a video that wasn't just us playing Pathfinder 2. And I think we just talked about, we talked about 5th edition versus Pathfinder 2 or something like that. And that shot us up. And that really catapulted our channel up for a huge time there. So, and is there something you would do differently if you could do it all over again? That's difficult to say, John, because where we're at right now is incredible. We've built this incredible community, and I don't want to like say that like it's not where that maybe I understand that we are doing way better than most people will ever do. You know, it's a random Tuesday. We've got 30 or 40 people in here. I've got people coming in here dropping $25, $50, $100. I've got 225 patrons who are willing to pay money, hard-earned, precious money, and they're willing to give that every month to us because they appreciate the community that we've built. They appreciate the content that we are producing. That's awesome. So, you know, I wouldn't want to fuck that up. But that being said, if I could do something differently, what would I do it all over again? I would have made the channel not as Pathfinder 2 focused from the beginning. Just because, number one, I play a lot of other games other than Pathfinder 2. And number two, I mean, Pathfinder 2 is great. It's the game that, you know, is out right now, but it's 3 years old. Like, is that what my channel is going to be forever? Just Pathfinder 2, Pathfinder 2, Pathfinder 2? No. You know, like editions change, new editions come out, and like let's say if Pathfinder 3E came out, right? Like let's say next year or 2 years from now, right? Like if my channel was a Pathfinder 2 channel, what would there be this big edition? Oh, you got to stick with Pathfinder 2. It's the better game. Oh, we hate 3rd edition. Or it's like you have to switch to 3rd edition. Now you have to play this, or you know, that's why I would probably change that. So I would do that. Shadram giving us the shout out, saying the first issue of Battlecry is really good. Highly recommend giving it. More value in there than a lot of more expensive PDFs I bought on Drive-Thru-RPG. Well, Shadram, love to hear it. Smith really did a great job on that article and putting that together, all that. Just fantastic job, and love to see it. Love to see it. Hello, Luigi. Welcome. James says, okay, random encounter idea. A hazard level 10 that spams clown curse until you fail or critically fail the saving throw. You can disable it by doing a gag. Respect. I'll respect that. Only if you're entirely a party of leshies. Oh, James, you know how to get me good, buddy. You know how to get me good. Another one. A hazard that spans burning blossoms. You can disable it by throwing haikus. That one might even be better. Strat, you keep forgetting about the live streams. How dare you? You heard it here. Pathfinder 3 in 2 years. Let's see, 2 years. Pathfinder 3 in 2 years. What is it? 2022. It's just been 3 years. I'll tell you this. 2024 is going to be the year of D&D. They're going to come out with whatever 6th edition is, 1 D&D, whatever. So Paizo isn't going to do anything that year. So I actually take back 2 years. But then I'm also thinking 3 years is a long time to wait. Like, because whatever comes out, it's going to get released at Gen Con, right? So in 3 years, it'd be 2025. D&D, 1 D&D will have been out for a year. And that by that point, Pathfinder 2 would have been 6 years old. Yeah. I'm going to say 2023. I'm not 2023. I'm sorry. 2025. But and they're not working on it. There's no way they're working on it right now. So yeah, I'm going to say 3 years, 2025 for sure. It's got to be 6 years. Is like they're going to need capital. They're going to need income. And you're going to have so many new people into the hobby. And if they were smart, because 1 D&D is going to create schism. It's going to create chaos. It's going to create ripples. And whenever the big top dog is floundering, right, they're going to be bleeding off people. There are going to be people who say, I'm sick of this. All my friends went to 1 D&D. I don't like 1 D&D, or I don't like the model that they're doing. It's time to look to go to something else. And at the time when that happens in 2024, that's not going to happen exactly on August 2024 when 1 D&D comes out. It's going to come out over the next 6 to 12 months. Yeah, people go, oh, but they could switch to Pathfinder 2. Yeah, but people would be like, oh, that game's 5 years old. It's probably going to be getting a new edition here soon. I don't really want to bite into that. If by that time Pathfinder 3 is already being tested and they talk about it having a release in 2025, I think that they would be well positioned to capture some of that turbulent market energy that's going to occur when 1 D&D releases. For good or for bad, 1 D&D is going to create ripples and waves in the player base. And so I feel like, now granted, Paizo also just lost like 3 or 4 or 5 of their like most experienced and veteran game designers. So I also don't know where that puts them in terms of priorities for getting things done and their ability to get things done. So yeah, we'll see. Anyways, that's my thought process on it. William Brandis, Pathfinder 3. Casters must now make a flat DC 21 check when casting a spell or explode, killing themselves and any of casters in the party. Marshals are immune to this effect, naturally. But also, of course, the explosion doesn't damage objects. In before Legends of the Five Pathfinder. Yeah, no. Yeah, this is the way right here. We want to do Legend of the Five Roots and Game of Root. That's definitely interesting. There are more people here than in the Paizo live stream. That's nothing to be. Listen. That's like winning the that's like winning the foot race with the toddlers. Like when you're an adult, like. Paizo live streams never get anybody in there. Can't wait to see what kind of root beers the Knights drink on stream. Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna be bringing back beer of the week for sure. Golden Monkey, for sure. I also am excited about that as well. 2020 as long Beer of the Week only had one problem, Golden Monkey. Beer of the Week's problem was that you had a bunch of players who didn't drink the beer of the week. They drank the beers of the week, plus the extra beers that they brought as their side package. And by the time we got to the third or so hour of playing Pathfinder 2, they were usually about 3 or 4 beers in. And then they were playing a system that none of them were really good at and was brand new to all of them. And then even on top of all of that, even for people who are very experienced, is pretty complicated. And so it could sometimes get a little messy. My hope is that Root, being a lot less tactical and miniature based, and it's much more narrative and freeing and free flowing, might actually be benefited by that. And of course, having people realize that this is not your Friday night excuse to just get sloshed and hammered, but enjoy a beer, call it at 1. James thinks more around 2029. You'll get Starfinder 2nd edition before Pathfinder 3, which is crazy and wild to me. But I don't think there's any way that it's going to be 2029. There's no way. That's no way. That's 10 years, James. It's 10 years. Mechanic Starfinder and Pathfinder in one game. PF1. Love it. That's funny. Yeah, Casey, that's exactly what I'm thinking here. What do you think a Paizo made PF3 will look like? No idea. If I had to wager a guess. I don't know. I really don't. I actually don't know. I mean, I think they would. I think it really comes down to would they move off? I mean, Pathfinder 2nd Edition is at its core still basically an OGL game. So would they move off of OGL completely? So I don't know. James says there's so many options for 2nd edition that I don't see a new edition for a long time. Just because you lost the veterans doesn't mean the new talent isn't as strong or stronger. I mean, it's possible that the new blood could take the company and the game in a very different direction, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, they've already pretty much reprinted all of the old classes, and I think there's a diminishing return. Once you reach 20 classes, what do you need? 30, 40, 50? Like, there's a diminishing return. Like, at some point, the audience reaches a level of saturation. I think that there is a certain amount of design space within a game that you can reach. And I mean, Pathfinder 2nd Edition has released more books, I feel, in 3 years of product development than I feel like 5th Edition has released in 10. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what else they can keep doing with this. I don't know. Certainly it's going to be, I think you're going to, maybe see the rise of the one class per book type thing. But again, we'll see. I'm a big believer in diminishing returns in role-playing games, because at a certain point you're just adding additional complexity, but not really adding anything to the experience of the system. So, we'll see what happens. Luigi's saying Starfinder 2nd edition in 2027. Oh man, that just seems so far away. 5 years seems like forever. Especially with the pace that things are happening now. And the one D&D model is going to change. It's going to change everything. RPGs as a service is what it's going to be. It's going to be crazy. Honestly, it's going to be crazy. Steven, I don't think Paizo will do it as they needed to already start. And yes, they would likely move off of OGL. Yeah, I think that would be a big, that would be a big thing. That'd be a big turn. Shadram says, no way Starfinder runs until 2027. It's got a lot of problems that they can fix with the new edition, and nobody's talking about it anymore. Yikes. KC says, yeah, I probably won't buy that many more Pathfinder 2 books. Even Element book is a maybe for me. I already have more than I'll ever use. Amen to that. And I say that as somebody who's, I mean, good. Part of what we want to do with Battlecry is not necessarily, we don't want to like, here's more feats and here's more classes. I mean, if we end up getting submissions for people and they want to produce those and people want to read those, we'll happily include those. But we are more interested in exploring different ideas and modes of play and elements that you can add to a game in order to change it up, rather than just saying like, here's more feats, here's more classes. But so saying this as someone who produces content, yeah, I kind of agree with KC here as well. I mean, there's like, I don't even know now with Dark Archive how many classes there are in Pathfinder 2. I promise, I'm probably never even going to play half of these classes. I'm probably not even going to play 25% of these classes. By the time I finished playing my first class, 2 new classes had already come out. So the percentage of classes I had played in Pathfinder 2 had actually gone down. Like, it's kind of crazy. John, thanks for the subscription. Now that'd be brutal. Pay your sub or lose your character and its magic. It'll be like World of Warcraft, Dune. You'll have your character sitting there like, their 3D model, breathing with their weapons, and you'll have the cool particle effect, but you'll have the sick skin. You'll have that badass water deep crimson blue Moon Knight skin with the Kelvin Aaron Sun Black Staff limited edition model, and you'll be like, oh, this is so badass. It's like, how free is 1D&D? It's so free. I love it. It's so good. It's so good. How much money have you spent? I have spent $10,000. Anyways, it's an old penny arcade comic. So free. Let me see if I can find this penny arcade comic. I think they're talking about League of Legends. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. I found it. Coming on here. Here we go. This is going to be 1D&D, except cross out League of Legends and and replace it with 1D&D. That is going to be 1D&D 100%. Like 100%. So true. These guys are fantastic. I've never been to PAX, but I would happily give them my money. I think Tycho and Gabe are A+ content creators and very funny. But yeah, this is the future of RPGs. So free. Let's see. All right. Well, I finally reached the end of the chat, and Joe says they still remember Questor. They're basic elf. Man, basic elves were badasses. They could wear full plate. They could use weapons. They could use bows. They got D8 hit die. They were full casters and could cast in armor, and they had good saves. Incredible. They just needed like 6,000 experience points to level up, but that's fine. Strat says, if it isn't, then WotC would be leaving a lot of money on the table, and they have a lot of experience making money in the digital space. That's true. Arena, Magic the Gathering Arena. It's the only thing better than printing cardboard and selling it to people for $4 a pack. Printing nothing and selling to people for $4 a pack. I honestly think subscription is the future of RPGs. You get people to try out your game, then you subscribe for the full service. Yeah, subscription is the future of everything. Oh, John just said that. Okay, great. Good minds think alike, John. Darth Gorlock, possibly with the last question of the stream, because we got 9 o'clock here by my clock. Question: now that you did Legend of the Five Rings, when is the Blades in the Dark stream? Well, for starters, we did not finish Legend of the Five Rings. We talked about how skill checks work. We did not cover the phases of play, how conflicts work. We did not cover techniques. We did not cover how to make a character. We did not cover how experience works, how items work, how glory, honor, and status work. And that's it. That's what we didn't cover. So we technically still have to cover that, sort of. But Blades in the Dark stream, yeah, I'd love to do it. Take a look here right here on my wall. I got a big calendar. I actually need to update it because it's a 3-month calendar, and it was July, August, September. But we're in September now, so now I have to kind of erase everything and make September here, and then push out so that I can have September, October, November. Anyways, this week is pretty busy. So I don't think we're going to be doing a super secret Sunday system stream this Sunday, which would be the 11th. But I could see us doing a super secret Sunday system stream on the 18th, which could be Blades in the Dark, because this Thursday, I don't know what I'm going to do because we don't have a spell stream yet, and we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do with that section. We're probably eventually going to turn it into some sort of interview, nightlife, hangout, focus, kind of like a mini version of our podcast, shrunk down, but live, hanging out. But right now we don't have that set up yet, so I might use this Thursday, the 8th, to talk more about Legend of the Five Rings, and then that would allow the 18th to be the super secret Sunday system stream for Blades in the Dark. But yeah, that would be cool. Derek creating the Legend of the Five Rings. It's so good. It's so good. I love it. It's just compelling. And it's a world. I mean, I need to separate my bias, and that's what's difficult. It's difficult to separate your bias, but it's like, for me, that is a world ripe for conflict, intrigue, battles, the whole 9 yards, but conflict. And I think that's what makes it so interesting, because the game is set up so that you have these structures that are already, in opposition to each other, and the characters from the very get-go you write them down on your character sheet. It's part of character creation. Why is your character in conflict? What does your character desire, but what is your character bound to do? And you're right, and like it literally, part of character creation is make your character interesting. So I think it's a very particularly effective game. The Super Secret Sunday system stream. You forgot another S. It's the Super Secret Sunday system stream, where we talk about systems. So we'll probably leave it there tonight, after our 2-hour stream. It looks like we've gotten through all of the questions, and looks like viewership is starting to drop off because people are getting tired, and I respect that. We'll be back Thursday. I want to thank Adrian and Scratch Paper Games for their super chats. And I want to thank Jason B, Combat Medic Bush, and especially Ben A for their generous donations. Ben, with his massive $75 donation, is probably going to be Hype Boss for a little while. And again, everybody who is a member of our Patreon, they are not only the financial heart of this channel, that's what allows us to do this, but they're also, a great community and great friends. I love hanging out with them every single day, chatting with them, learning from them, teaching them, listening, talking, hanging out, being buddies. It started off as a meme, as like a joke, but I mean, I'm serious when I say that I think one day we will definitely, maybe end of next year, we'll do a night con, just so we can get to hang together and hang out, and everyone raises a beer in person, and hang out and play some games together. And I think that would just be so fun. And really, that is what has been the key takeaway from all of this experience from being on YouTube. People talk about parasocial relationships. which exists to a certain extent, right? I mean, I get that it's, for a lot of creators, it's a one-way thing. Like, you feel like we have this relationship, but really it's not. It's a one-way relationship. But that's not the case, at least for me. Our channel is small. Our community is, pretty tight-knit. And so for us, it isn't just a parasocial relationship. These are folks that I hang out with and chat with every day. In some cases, more than my, real life friends and family, because we're passionate about the same things. They have interesting ideas. They're willing to listen. They're willing to learn. And I love hearing from them as well. So it's become a very positive part of my life, and it's become very much a big part of my life. So yeah, it's been really fun. So check it out. Patreon.com/NightsOfLastCall. We have several different tiers. If you're interested in that Battle Cry magazine, you're going to want to get it at the champion level. It's $10 because you're going to get issue 1 before we take it down. But then also you'll get issue 2 later this month, and then issue 3 in October, and so on and so forth. Champion will also get you several character slots to play in our Northern Reaches game, so you don't just have to play one character. You can play up to 3 characters. If you want unlimited characters, you go to Hero. Champion tier will also get your name in the credits. You'll get you'll get access to all our bonus video content. You get the whole rigmarole. So, and if you want to go full on, become a hero, and you get everything, including special access to come on stream with us and hang out with us when the situation arises. So, Strat, you're right. Champion also gets us our Dark of Winter PDF. Aaron ran us through a 6-month, 7-month, 8-month Pathfinder 2 campaign with very, very different kind of gamified rules to create a different kind of game experience. One where your character has downtime actions in town, very Blades in the Dark-ish. It's like if you mixed Blades in the Dark with BXD&D, combining it with sort of a video game into Pathfinder 2. And that's a massive PDF. That's 40 or 50 pages long with tons of alternative rules and a whole different way of approaching it. And at the very least, it's an idea machine full of tables and ideas. So in addition to just being playable on its own right. So you get that as well. And Strat, that also is going to be getting taken down here mid-month. So we want to make sure that the people who've been supporting us, you can't just join at the end of the year and get 6 episodes, 6 issues and 6 PDFs all at once. We want to make sure that the people who have been supporting us and continue to support us, they get a little bit of exclusivity. And if people want to show up later, that's fine. But they're not just going to get everything that we have. They're going to have to pay the piper. Shots from, I'm stealing lots of Dark of Winter for my next campaign. The rest is stolen from Northern Reaches. Perfect. I'd love a print-on-demand copy of the PDF someday. Smith has done PODs of his campaigns before. I have one somewhere on this shelf here. It was a campaign called Legend. But the Dungeon Core visited PF2, but more PF2 than PF2 is. Yeah, the Dungeon Core, and particularly the encounters of Dark of Winter, have a very 4th edition feel to them as well. Certainly, Aaron and I are oftentimes, a lot of people comment. Bob says all the time that he and I are just like the same person, because like in our private chats and our KOLC chats, Aaron and I will respond at the same time with the same statement, more or less. But he, like me, is very influenced by all these different games and loves to bring all these different elements into these games. And long before we ever had a YouTube channel or a Nights of Last Call Discord, Aaron and I promise you, Aaron and I were having these exact conversations with each other all the time anyways. But now you all get to be part of those conversations. And, if you're on the Discord, you're definitely seeing that happen on a daily basis. So it's really awesome. VR with Braxton. Hello. I'm sorry. Thank you for saying hi, but we're about to go. So thanks, everybody. For joining us tonight, and we'll see you on Thursday. I'm really thinking we might be talking about Legend of the Five Rings, but we'll see what happens. Look for the thumbnail. And of course, check us out. Subscribe, click the bell for notifications. Check out some of our old videos. Check out some of our other live streams. I'm sure we've got something that we're talking about, something that you might be interested in, and get a sense for who we are and what we're doing. And if you like it and you want to see more of it, check us out. Patreon.com/Nights of Last Call. Thank you again, everybody. And we'll see you next time. Salve Re. Good night. We'll see you next time on Knights of Last Call.